Okay, let me show you how to remove the food door on the 700 TCI. Need a screw gun or a screwdriver, and take one screw out here. This is going to require some extra work here. All right, let's try it this way. Oh, okay. And then there's one on each side. And one more up on the top. Probably would be helpful if you had two people doing this. But I work alone. Oh, I think I over-tightened these. Okay. And you just pull it off, bring it down. All right, now that's how you remove the door. Okay, so we're going to now reinstall the hinges with this hinge after we took it apart and checked it out. It's a little worn. Just line up all the screws and okay. Gotta be careful not to strip these screws, because if you do, you'll never get them out unless you drill them out. All right, one more. It's a little loose. I'm afraid there's not much we can do about that. Just want to make sure it is the right size in there. Okay, so now we'll put it back on. This is the upper, this is the lower. Let's get this door ready first. And those screws. I took the door seal off also, so I can wash it down and soak it in hot water. Hopefully soften it up a little bit because it's not sitting right. So put that in like that. One goes up there like that. It's always helpful if you have somebody that can help you. but it can be done with one person. Okay, that helps. I'll do the other side. Let's get one in on the bottom. That's it. That's how you take the door off. That's how you replace the hinges. All right, so now I'm going to wash this door seal down, and because it's not damaged, it's just dirty. And soaking it in really hot water will soften it up a little bit and help it seal a little bit. But I noticed before I took the door off that the top of the seal was not touching the frame. So it's possible we might need a new door seal on here. We'll see what happens after we clean it. Okay, we will be back. Okay, so we washed this door gasket down, soaked it in hot water, cleaned it with citrus cleaner, and now we're going to put it back on. It doesn't matter which goes, it's all the same, up and down, same top and bottom. Now this is called a low pull gasket. There's no screws, it just pushes into this groove. There's some ribs on this part of the seal that holds it in place, kind of locks it in place. So you just have to push it. I mean, we have other videos on how to replace these door seals, but I'll show you again on this one. So soaking it in hot water and cleaning it actually helps restore it to its original shape. You know, just look at it from the side. You can see if it's in properly. It's pretty easy to do. You know, if you use original seals from a Sub-Zero company, they're superior to anything else out there in the market. I've seen third-party parts. It just, you know, you just don't cut it. You just push it in, make sure it's seated. And you know, there's a magnet in here, and that's what helps keeps the door sealed. And this is, of course, there's metal behind this, around the frame. This is plastic, but there's metal behind it, so the seal, the gasket is pulled in. Okay, let's look at the bottom. The bottom looks okay here. Push it in. All right, let's see. Okay, that's looking good. I can see there's a gap up on the top. Right here, you can see that. So it appears to me that the door is sagging down, and that's one of the reasons why that part of the seal isn't touching the top. So we could replace the hinges. That's one way of tackling that. I mean, actually the hinge does look a little crooked. Okay, so in order to fix this sagging door,
we're going to pull the door off again, and then we're going to install a Shim Kit provided by Sub-Zero, and you can just follow along and I'll show you how to put them in. Okay, now that we have the door off, we know the door is sagging. Sub-Zero has this kit with these spacers in here to compensate for that sag. And most people don't know that these things are available, but I had it happen a couple of them around, so let's open them up and see what the instruction says. It's called the Top Hinge Shims, and it's complete instructions here. So we'll follow the instructions and we'll put the shims in and see if that helps the door close a little bit better. First, you're going to need to take the hinge off, and you can use either a hex head bit or you can use an Allen key. So we just take these out, and you got to be careful not to strip the heads on these screws, because if they look like they're loose or they're stripped, you should probably replace the screws. It's only 4 screws that hold this hinge on, and these hinges are quite expensive to replace. But many times people put these really heavy door panels on, and it just, over time, it just wears the hinge down. Okay, let's just get that out of there. There you go. Okay, so the heads of these screws, like I said, if they look like they're worn, these are good. Good. All right, so now, here's the instructions. Remove decorative door panel and all door shelves from the door, which we did. Then the hinge cover from the top hinge arm. See diagram 1. Okay. Loosen, do not remove the 4 top door hinge screws. This will allow the top hinge to relax by transferring weight to the lower hinge. Well, we're doing this a little differently because we took the door off. So what they're saying is you don't have to take the door off. Completely remove 1 screw at a time and insert the appropriate shims to form a 1/16 or less gap between the top of the shim and the bottom of the hinge arm. Then reinstall the screw. So in other words, do 1 screw at a time, being sure to leave it loose. Repeat this for the 3 remaining screws. See diagrams 1 and 2. So basically, we're just going to put 1 shim underneath the door. So you put, this is a left hinge door. This is showing you a right hinge door. So you're going to put the shim between here and the door itself. So we'll do that next. Okay, so I put the screws back in to give you a better idea how this is going to work. I took 1 screw out. So basically what they're saying in the instructions is you want to do 1 screw at a time and put it on each screw in between the hinge and the door. You can see here, you see where the shims are? Here's the door, and here's the door hinge. So you put 1 shim between each screw in here. So we just have to decide what size shims we're going to use. Stand by. Okay, so here are the 3 sets of shims. And by the way, here's the part number, 420-2290. It's also on the instruction sheet, 420-2290. They're giving us 3 93 thousandths, 62 thousandths, and 31 thousandths of an inch shim. So I think we're going to try Let's try the 093s first and put them on, and we'll see how the door hangs. This may have been a little easier for you to do with the door on, so I'm just going to use this little magnet here to try to hold that shim. Get that piece in there, but it's not letting me do that, so I'll have to find another way. Maybe if we go down from the bottom. Yeah, okay. Okay, we'll get that started. And we'll take out the next one. Alright, so we'll snug these all up. Put the door back on and see if we can fix that gap. That's a pretty big gap in the door, and that will definitely cause an air leak. Now this is an old Sub-Zero. It's one of the first designs of the integrated series. So they did redesign them a couple times. You have a -2 and a -3. This is a 700 TCI. Okay, so they're all in there. Everything's been tightened up. You can see there's a little play in this hinge. And hopefully those shims will allow us to compensate for that play, and the door will steal. So now we'll put the door back on. Okay, now let's put this door back on. This is going to be a little difficult for me to do because I have a torn rotator cuff, but all right, now once we get one bolt in there, it won't be such a problem. Just working with one hand here. All right, so let's see if we can do this. Good. Okay. Just keep holding the door and get one in the bottom. Okay, it's snug. Oh, a bit stuck in there. I might have to get another tool to get that out. Okay, let me get a needle nose. There it goes. One more on the top. So you can see the door is easy to take off. Once you take the door panel off, it's not really that heavy. Okay, let's get that in there. All right, just double check, make sure the bolts are tight. right. Well, now let's test the door and see if that helps. Now you can still see a gap there. See? Still a gap. And you can see the shims in there. So maybe what we need to do is, instead of putting the shims on the top of the door, that we should put them on the bottom of the door. So we'll do that next, then we'll try it again. Okay, here you see now I took the shims out and reinstalled and tightened everything down. So now we're going to try putting the shims on the bottom of on the bottom hinge and see if that helps. Okay, so I loosened all the screws on the bottom hinge, and so we'll take out each screw and put the shim in. I guess I don't understand the instructions, because the instructions said, the sheet says it's for the top hinge. And I've installed these shim kits before on these models, and I always put it on the bottom hinge. So I'm just following the instructions. Okay, we'll tighten these all up and see what happens. Okay, let's see how this works out. No different. You can still see that gap in there. And the door still is down. So at this point, I'm going to have to say these hinges are going to have to be replaced. Although, maybe if we reverse the door seal and see if that helps. Put this on the bottom. Yes, it could be the seal. Okay. That's even worse. Yeah. It's got a gap. So the next thing to do, I think, is to probably Let's do the dollar bill test on here. This is how you test a door seal. You stick the dollar bill in there and you close the door. See, if you have drag, like that, the door's sealing. But up here, nothing. So, I'm not going to put a door seal on here because this refrigerator is just going to be a loaner. It's more or less we're using it for instructional purposes. But if you look at that hinge, you could see the hinge is leaning downward. So I would say new door hinges and a door seal should correct this problem on this model. The door seal is a little flattened out. Okay, well, let's move on to some other instructions. Okay, I'm going to try one more thing. All right, so what I think I'm going to try here is I'm going to try to put some shims underneath the upper hinge, just in the front, to kind of tweak this upward and see if we can get the angle of this hinge in a better position. All right, so I'll work that in. Okay, I think we got it. The door seal's sealing properly. I leveled out the hinge. What I did was I got a piece of 1/16 inch thick aluminum plate and I put it under the front part of the hinge. You can see it's under here, this part, which will raise the hinge up and take away that sagging. And it's still screwed in, it's tight. The door is closing properly and sealing, so I would consider this project complete. Thanks for watching.